The crystal champagne flute trembles in my hand, the reflection of the chandeliers blurring into the sparkling liquid. My sister, Elena, glides down the aisle, a vision in white. Her wedding dress, it's probably worth more than my annual salary. My presence here is a mistake. I know it the moment I catch Mom's glacial stare from the front row. I'm Clara, the uninvited sister, the family disappointment, the one who dared to show up at Elena's perfect society wedding. I sink deeper into my seat at the back of the grand ballroom, praying the elaborate flower arrangements will shield me from more hostile glances. Can you believe she had the nerve to come? A stage whisper carries from 2 rows ahead. After what happened with the clinic. I grip Mark's hand beside me. My husband squeezes back, his silent support the only thing keeping me from fleeing. Our 6-year-old daughter, Sophie, fidgets in her Sunday best, oblivious to the tension crackling through the air like static before a storm. The string quartet transitions to the wedding march. Elena reaches the altar where her fiancé, Michael, waits, both of them picture perfect. Dad beams as he gives her away, his pride radiating across the room. The same father who told me 8 years ago that I was dead to him. If anyone objects to this union, speak now, or forever hold your peace. The officiant's words echo through the hall. And then, Mom stands. Her designer heels click against the marble floor as she turns to face the crowd. Her gaze locks onto mine. I apologize, everyone. Her voice cuts through the hushed room. But we have an uninvited guest who needs to leave. Clara, you were explicitly told you are not welcome at family events. This is a private ceremony. 200 faces swivel toward me. Sophie shrinks against my side. Mommy, why is Grandma mad? Elena's perfectly painted lips curve into a smirk. Security, please escort my former sister out. She's trying to ruin my special day as usual. Former sister. Sophie's small voice cracks. But Aunt Elena. I'm not your aunt, dear. Elena's words slice through the air. Your mother lost the right to call herself family years ago when she betrayed us all. 2 security guards materialize beside our row. Mark stands, positioning himself between them and me. We're leaving. No need for force. How dare you bring a child into this mess? Mom's voice drips with venom. Trying to manipulate us with an innocent girl. You haven't changed at all. My cheeks burn as we shuffle past bewildered guests. Sophie's hand trembles in mine. The whispers follow us like poison darts. Always was the troubled one. Such a shame what she did to her poor parents. That poor child, having her for a mother. At the ballroom doors, I pause and turn. Elena stands triumphant at the altar, Dad and Mom flanking her like proud sentinels. The perfect family tableau, minus the black sheep daughter they erased. Congratulations, Elena. My voice carries clearly across the silence. I hope your marriage is built on more honest foundations than the rest of your life. Her smile falters for just a moment. Good. Let her wonder what I know. In the lobby, Sophie bursts into tears. Why don't they love us, Mommy? I gather her close, meeting Mark's worried gaze over her head. He knows what this means. The careful peace I've maintained for years has shattered. They forced my hand by humiliating me in front of my daughter. Some people, sweetheart, aren't capable of real love. I stroke her hair, my resolve hardening with each sob. But that's about to change. 8 years I've stayed away, swallowing their lies. 8 years of watching Elena build her perfect life on stolen dreams and buried secrets. But seeing my daughter cry, that's the final straw. They want to talk about betrayal. Fine. Time to show them what real betrayal looks like. I've got nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Game on, dear sister. Game on. The drive home from Elena's wedding feels endless. Sophie's fallen asleep in the back seat, tear tracks still visible on her cheeks. Mark's knuckles are white on the steering wheel, and the silence between us stretches like a rubber band about to snap. You shouldn't have gone, he finally says, voice low to avoid waking Sophie. We talked about this. I trace the edge of my phone screen where dozens of social media notifications flash about the incident. They made my daughter cry, Mark. Our daughter. And whose fault is that? He takes the exit toward our neighborhood, his jaw tight. You knew exactly what would happen. The accusation hits harder than I expect, maybe because there's truth in it. Pull over, Mark. Pull over now. He guides the car into an empty parking lot. I step out, needing air that isn't thick with unspoken words. The night air is cool against my flushed skin as I pace between faded parking lines. Mark follows, leaving the car running for Sophie. Talk to me. What's really going on? Did you see her face? The way she looked at me? My laugh sounds brittle. Perfect Elena, with her perfect lies. You know what she told everyone about why I was disowned? You never wanted to discuss it before. She told them I stole from the clinic. I spit the words out, the taste acidic in my mouth. Embezzled money meant for patient care. Meanwhile, she's working there now right alongside Dad, probably raking it in. I stop myself, remembering Mark doesn't know everything. Not yet. He steps closer, concern etched in his features. Probably what? My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. I know what really happened 8 years ago. Meet me tomorrow 2 p.m. Carson Street Coffee. Mark's hand on my shoulder makes me jump. What aren't you telling me? I show him the text. His expression darkens. Could be a trap. Your family. Might not be my family anymore, I retort, turning back toward the car. Someone at the clinic knows something. Someone who was there when everything fell apart. And you're just going to meet this mysterious person? After what happened today? He catches my arm. Think about Sophie. About us. I am thinking about us. I pull away gently. That's why I need to do this. They humiliated our daughter, Mark, made her question everything about who she is, who I am. So this is about revenge? This is about truth. I watch Sophie sleeping through the car window, peaceful despite everything. Elena built her whole life on lies. The clinic, her marriage to Michael, her reputation, all of it constructed on the ruins of what she took from me. Mark runs a hand through his hair, a gesture I recognize from a decade of marriage. He's worried, but he's listening. What exactly are you planning? Nothing yet. But if someone's finally willing to talk, I meet his gaze steadily. I need to know. If you're with me, really with me, not just standing on the sidelines while I fight this battle alone. He's quiet for a long moment, studying me. You're different tonight. There's something in your eyes I haven't seen before. Maybe because I finally see things clearly. I step closer, taking his hands. Remember when we first met? You said I was carrying too many ghosts. You were right. But they weren't ghosts, Mark. They were monsters wearing my family's faces, and I let them haunt me for too long. A car passes, its headlights sweeping across us. In that brief illumination, I see understanding dawn in Mark's expression. He pulls me into a tight embrace. I'm with you, he whispers against my hair. But we do this smart. We do this right. No more improvised confrontations. Agreed, I breathe in his familiar scent, drawing strength from his solid presence. Tomorrow, at the coffee shop. Come with me, watch from a distance, make sure it's not a setup. Of course, he pulls back, cupping my face. But Clara, promise me something. Whatever we learn, whatever happens, we protect Sophie first. Always. Always, I agree. Even as a part of me whispers that protection sometimes means fighting back. Sometimes it means burning everything down to build something better from the ashes. In the car, Sophie stirs slightly, murmuring in her sleep. Looking at her, I feel my resolve harden like steel. Elena and my parents thought they could shame me into disappearing again. Instead, they've given me exactly what I needed, a reason to stop running and start fighting back. Tomorrow, I'll meet my mysterious messenger. Tomorrow, I'll start gathering the matches needed to set this whole facade ablaze. But tonight, I'll hold my daughter and remember why the truth matters more than any comfortable lie. Carson Street Coffee buzzes with the afternoon rush when I spot her. Mrs. Davis, our family clinic's former accountant, hunched over a laptop in the corner booth. Mark catches my eye from his position at the counter, a silent confirmation that he's watching. I slide into the seat across from Mrs. Davis. Her fingers tremble slightly as she closes her laptop. I wasn't sure you'd come. 8 years is a long time to stay quiet. I keep my voice neutral, though my pulse races. Why now? She glances around nervously. Your sister's wedding. It was all over social media. When I saw what they did to you, she pulls out a USB drive. There's something you need to see. The drive feels impossibly heavy in my palm. What's on it? Financial records from before you left. Mrs. Davis leans forward, lowering her voice. Your father didn't just frame you for embezzlement, Clara. He actively covered up Elena's mistakes, massive ones. My coffee arrives, Mark's subtle way of staying close. Mrs. Davis flinches at his approach. The patient death in 2015, she continues once he's gone. Remember? How could I forget? A terminal cancer patient died after receiving experimental treatment. The investigation cleared the clinic, but Elena administered the wrong dosage. Mrs. Davis's words hit like physical blows. She wasn't qualified, hadn't even completed her medical training. Your father buried it, paid off the family. The coffee cup rattles against the saucer as I set it down. You have proof? Everything's on that drive, including evidence that Elena never finished medical school. The credentials she's using at the clinic, all falsified. My throat tightens. Why didn't you come forward back then? Your father threatened my family. My daughter was sick. I needed the insurance. Shame colors her face. But she's grown now, and I saw what happened at the wedding. The way they're still hurting you. My phone buzzes. A text from Elena. Having coffee with anyone interesting? I look up sharply. Through the window, I catch a glimpse of Michael's car pulling away. They're watching me. Mrs. Davis notices the panic edging into my voice. I shouldn't have come. I have to go. It's okay. I stand, offering her my arm. Let my husband drive you home. Mark appears instantly, reading the situation. He escorts Mrs. Davis out. I text Elena back, just catching up with old friends. How's married life? Her response is immediate. Stay away from Mrs. Davis. Some stories should stay buried. I pocket the USB drive, my mind racing. Another text arrives, this time from Dad. My office. 1 hour. Come alone, or Mrs. Davis loses everything. The threat is clear, but something's different now. The trembling in my hands isn't fear, it's anticipation. At the clinic, Dad's secretary tries to stop me. I brush past her, pushing into his office where he and Elena wait. That was quick, Elena says, but her usual smugness wavers. Enough games. I face Dad across his massive desk. You want to threaten Mrs. Davis, go ahead. But first, explain something. How many other patients did Elena kill? The color drains from his face. Elena steps forward. You don't know what you're talking about. 2015, terminal cancer patient, wrong dosage. I watch their reactions. Ring any bells? You've clearly lost your mind, Dad starts, but I cut him off. Funny thing about buried secrets, someone always keeps receipts. I pull out my phone, playing the recording of my conversation with Mrs. Davis. Wonder what the medical board would think. Elena lunges for my phone. I sidestep easily, watching her facade crack. You're bluffing. Try me. I meet Dad's gaze. You destroyed my life to protect her, framed me for theft, erased me from the family, all to cover up her mistakes. I did what was necessary. His voice is ice. Elena had potential. You were always difficult. Difficult. I laugh, the sound sharp enough to make them both flinch. I was the only one telling the truth, and now I have proof. What do you want? Elena demands. I move toward the door, pausing with my hand on the handle. I want you both to know what's coming. Every lie, every cover-up, every patient you've put at risk, it all comes out. And this time, I smile, feeling decades of pain crystallize into purpose. This time, I'm not the one who will disappear. Their protests follow me out, but I don't look back. In my pocket, The USB drive holds enough truth to burn their perfect world to ash. Let them try to stop me. I'm not that scared little girl anymore. I'm the one they should fear. The USB drive's contents spill across my laptop screen. Financial records, falsified credentials, patient records. Each document adds another brick to the wall of evidence against my family. But it's an email thread between Mom and Dad that makes my hands shake. You need to see this. I turn the screen toward Mark, who's been pacing our home office. He leans in, scanning the text, his jaw tightening. They knew about the other patients. My voice sounds distant to my own ears. 3 more deaths, all covered up, all blamed on equipment malfunctions or natural causes. The doorbell rings. Through the window, I glimpse Michael's expensive car in our driveway. Mark moves toward the door, but I catch his arm. Let me handle this. Michael looks nothing like the confident man from Elena's wedding. His tie is loose, dark circles under his eyes. We need to talk, Clara. I lead him to the kitchen, deliberately choosing not to offer him anything. He fidgets with his wedding ring. Elena told me what you have. He glances toward my laptop. Whatever they're offering you. Who's offering me what? The medical board investigators. He runs a hand through disheveled hair. They approached me yesterday, asked about inconsistencies in Elena's credentials. My pulse quickens, but I keep my expression neutral. I haven't spoken to any investigators. Don't lie to me, his voice cracks. I know what she did, what they all did. I've been doing the clinic's records since the wedding, and I can't. He swallows hard. I have evidence too, things even you don't know about. But if this gets out, it won't just destroy Elena and your parents. There are other people involved. Good people who were just following orders. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Your daughter's school just received an anonymous tip about possible abuse in your home. CPS has been notified. The room tilts slightly. Michael notices my reaction. They're desperate, he says quietly. They'll do anything to keep this quiet. They're threatening my daughter. The words come out like ice shards. Let me help you. Michael leans forward. I can get you money, enough to disappear. Start fresh somewhere else. Just hand over the evidence. Mark appears in the doorway, his presence steady. I think you should leave. You don't understand. Michael stands. They won't stop. Dad's already called in favors with local authorities. They'll fabricate evidence against you, Clara. They'll take Sophie. Get out! My voice doesn't shake. Tell my sister and my parents they just made their biggest mistake. After he leaves, Mark holds me as I tremble. Not with fear, but with rage. We need to move fast, he says. If they're involving Sophie. No. I pull away, my mind crystallizing around a new plan. We're not running. Call your sister at the newspaper. It's time everyone knew exactly who the Millers really are. Clara, they want to play dirty. Fine. I grab my phone, dialing Mrs. Davis's number. But they forgot something important. What's that? I learned from the best. I meet his worried gaze. They taught me how to destroy someone's life. Now they get to see how well I paid attention. Mrs. Davis answers on the first ring. Clara, they're here! Police with a warrant! Upload everything now. Every file, every record, every piece of evidence. Send it to the email I gave you. But, trust me. I hang up, turning to Mark. Call the school. Get Sophie. Then call every reporter your sister knows. In an hour, the Miller family clinic is going to become breaking news. This is it then? Mark studies my face. No turning back? I think of Sophie, innocent and precious, now a target in their desperate game. Of Mrs. Davis, probably being arrested right now. Of every patient who died because of Elena's lies and my parents' cover-ups. They chose this path. I start typing, preparing the email that will detonate my family's carefully constructed world. I'm just making sure they walk it all the way to the end. As I hit send, watching hundreds of damning documents wing their way to dozens of news outlets, I feel something shift inside me. The scared daughter seeking approval dies. In her place rises someone stronger, someone forged in betrayal and tempered by righteous fury. Let them come for me. I'm ready. The headlines explode across every local news outlet by morning. Miller Family Clinic under investigation. Multiple deaths linked to fraudulent doctor, prominent family faces, criminal charges. I watch the clinic's parking lot from my car, counting the reporters swarming like hungry sharks. Mom emerges first, perfectly composed until camera flashes blind her. She stumbles, her mask slipping for just a moment. My phone hasn't stopped buzzing, missed calls from unknown numbers, text messages ranging from threats to desperate pleas. I ignore them all, waiting. Finally, Elena appears, Michael trailing behind her. Even from this distance, I can see she's been crying. Good. A tap on my window makes me jump. Mark stands outside, expression grim. I roll down the window. The medical board just arrived, he says. And Clara, Mrs. Davis is dead. The world stops. What? Car accident last night. They're calling it a suicide. My hands grip the steering wheel until my knuckles turn white. When? Right after the police left her house. Mark's voice drops. Clara, there's more. The evidence she uploaded, most of it's corrupted. They got to the servers somehow. A bitter laugh escapes me. Of course they did. We should go home. This isn't safe. Mrs. Miller. A reporter spots me, and suddenly they're all running toward my car. I start the engine, but not before catching Elena's expression as she realizes I'm here. For a moment, our eyes meet across the parking lot. She mouths something, not a threat or a plea, just 2 words. I'm sorry. The drive home is silent. Mark keeps glancing at me, waiting for the breakdown that won't come. Mrs. Davis's death should devastate me, should make me question everything. Instead, it hardens something inside me. We find Mom sitting in our living room. How did you get in? Mark demands, moving protectively in front of me. I raised her. Mom's voice is eerily calm. I still have her spare key from when she was young. Get out, I say, but she raises her hand, revealing a familiar USB drive. Looking for this? She sets it on the coffee table. Your father says hello, by the way. He's meeting with the board right now, explaining how his troubled daughter fabricated evidence to destroy her sister out of jealousy. Mrs. Davis is dead. Yes. She doesn't even flinch. Tragic. Depression is a terrible thing. You killed her. Prove it. She stands, smoothing her expensive skirt. Like you'll need to prove all your other accusations now that the evidence is gone. Your father's lawyers are very good at their jobs. Mark steps forward, but I catch his arm. Let her talk. We're willing to be generous, Clara. Mom's smile doesn't reach her eyes. Leave town. Take your family somewhere far away. We'll provide enough money to start fresh. Or, she pauses, letting the threat hang in the air. Or stay and watch everything you love burn. Sophie. Such a sweet child. It would be awful if Child Protective Services found evidence of abuse. Or if Mark's newspaper suddenly discovered financial irregularities in his records. You're threatening a child. Mark's voice shakes with rage. Your own granddaughter. I'm protecting my family. Mom pauses at the door. You have 24 hours to decide. Choose wisely. After she leaves, Mark holds me as I tremble. Not with fear or grief, but with a cold fury that threatens to consume me. We can't let them win, he whispers. We won't. I pull away, moving to my laptop. Mrs. Davis may be gone, but she wasn't the only one with evidence. Clara, they killed her. They'll destroy us if we run. My fingers fly across the keyboard, accessing encrypted files I've been gathering for weeks. But they forgot something important about cornered animals. What's that? I turn the screen toward him, showing dozens of audio recordings, surveillance photos, and backed-up documents, a parallel investigation I've been running alongside Mrs. Davis's. They fight hardest when they have nothing left to lose. I start composing emails to every major news outlet in the country, Mom wants to play games with my daughter's safety? Fine. Let's see how she likes it when the whole world knows exactly what kind of monster she really is. This could backfire spectacularly, Mark warns. Probably, I hit send, watching the emails disappear into cyberspace. But I'm done playing by their rules. The first national news alert pings on my phone minutes later. The war has begun, and this time, I'm not fighting to expose the truth. I'm fighting to destroy them completely. The police arrive at 3 in the morning. I watch from our bedroom window as they lead Mark away in handcuffs, their accusations echoing in the quiet street. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. All fabricated. All perfectly crafted to destroy him. Sophie sleeps through it, thank God. I stand in her doorway afterward, watching her peaceful breathing, knowing I caused this. My phone vibrates. Dad's number. Satisfied? His voice carries decades of practiced authority. This is just the beginning, Clara. Walk away now, or tomorrow it's your daughter's school calling with concerns about her home life. I end the call without speaking. My hands shake as I pack Sophie's overnight bag, clothes, her favorite stuffed animal, the photo album she loves. Mark's sister, Claire, arrives within the hour. It's just for a few days, I tell Sophie when she wakes, confused and frightened. Like a vacation with Aunt Claire. But what about Daddy? What about you? I hold her tight, breathing in her familiar scent. We'll fix everything. I promise. After they leave, the house feels like a tomb. I pour myself a drink, but before I can take a sip, someone pounds on the front door. Elena stands on my porch, mascara streaked down her face. They're going to kill you. What? She pushes past me, frantically checking windows and doors. I heard them talking. Dad hired someone. They're making it look like a break-in gone wrong. Why are you telling me this? Because Mrs. Davis was my friend too, her voice cracks. And I can't. I can't have another death on my conscience. I study my sister, really look at her for the first time in years. The perfect facade has crumbled, revealing someone as broken as I am. Michael left me, she continues. The medical board revoked my license. Everything's falling apart, and they don't even care. They're just worried about protecting themselves, like they always have been. She grabs my arm. You need to run. Now. Take what you can and go. Headlights sweep across the windows. Elena freezes. They're here. Get out the back. I need 2 minutes, I tell her, already moving toward my laptop. Clara, go. As she slips away, I quickly upload everything I have to multiple secure servers. The front door splinters under heavy boots just as I hit send. 2 men enter, faces obscured, professional, clinical. I recognize the look, the same cold efficiency Dad always praised in his business dealings. Mrs. Collins, the taller one approaches slowly. This can be easy or hard, your choice. I back away, buying seconds as the files upload. My father sends his regards. The Millers send their condolences about your tragic accident. A noise from the kitchen makes them turn. Elena stands there, phone raised. I'm live streaming everything. The men hesitate. In that moment, I lunge for the front door, but the shorter one catches me. Pain explodes across my face as he strikes me. Through blurred vision, I see Elena tackle him. Run! I stumble into the street, blood in my mouth, ears ringing. Behind me, glass shatters. A scream, Elena's or mine, I'm not sure. Neighbors' lights flick on. A car starts somewhere. The men emerge from my house, walking unhurriedly to their vehicle, professional to the end. I find Elena unconscious in my kitchen, her phone crushed nearby. But she's breathing. And as sirens wail in the distance, she stirs. Did you get it? She mumbles. The evidence? Yes. I help her sit up, noting the bruises already forming. Why did you come back? Because. She touches her split lip gingerly. Before they turned us against each other, I remember when you were my big sister. And I miss that person. The sirens grow closer. Soon there will be questions, statements, More lies from our parents. Mark's still in jail. Sophie's away. Everything I've built lies in ruins around me. But Elena's words echo in my head. Big sister. Something shifts inside me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But understanding. We were both victims of our parents' manipulation, turned against each other for their benefit. We have to end this, I say, as red and blue lights paint my kitchen walls. Not just expose them, destroy them completely. Elena meets my gaze, and for the first time in decades, I see my sister instead of my enemy. Together? Together. I take her hand, feeling the weight of all our shared scars and separate wounds. Together. The police arrive to find us like that, bloodied but unbowed, finally united against the real monsters in our story. Let our parents think they've won. Their perfect family fantasy is about to become their worst nightmare. The Miller Family Clinic's annual charity gala becomes our battlefield. Elena and I move through the crowd separately, watching our parents work the room like nothing's wrong, like they didn't try to have me killed last week. Mrs. Collins, a board member, catches my arm, surprised. To see you here, given the circumstances. I smile, channeling Mom's perfect social mask. I wouldn't miss it. Across the room, Dad takes the podium. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we celebrate 30 years of serving our community. Elena signals from near the AV booth. Everything's ready. I check my phone. Mark's lawyer confirms the charges are dropped. The real evidence of financial manipulation traced back to Dad's accounts. And now, Dad continues, oblivious, I'd like to share a video highlighting our clinic's achievements. The lights dim, but instead of the planned presentation, security footage fills the screen. Dad in his office counting cash, Mom threatening Mrs. Davis, patient records being altered, each clip dated, documented, damning. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Dad fumbles with the microphone, but his voice is drowned out by the audio of him ordering the hit on me. Turn it off, Mom shrieks, but Elena holds the door to the AV booth closed. Why? I step forward, my voice carrying across the stunned silence. Isn't this what we're celebrating? 30 years of fraud, corruption, and murder? Security, Dad bellows, but the officers I hired stand firm. They work for me tonight. I move closer to the podium. Just like the private investigators who've been watching you, the forensic accountants tracking your bribes, the lawyers building cases for every family you've destroyed. Mom lunges for me, her carefully maintained composure shattering. You ungrateful. Careful, Mother. Elena emerges from the crowd. The press is recording. Indeed, cameras flash as reporters, invited anonymously, capture every moment. You planned this? Together? Dad's face contorts with rage. My own daughters. Your daughters? I laugh, the sound sharp as broken glass. You tried to kill me last week. You framed my husband. You threatened my child. Everything I did was to protect this family. He grabs my arm, fingers digging in painfully. Let her go. Elena's voice carries steel. Or I tell them about Jason. Dad freezes. What? Mom whispers. The patient from 2011. Elena meets his gaze steadily. The one whose death you blamed on equipment failure. Except it wasn't the equipment, was it? It was you, trying to cover up a mistake that would have cost you everything. You knew, Mom whispers. I found the real records. Elena's hands shake slightly. The ones you kept to blackmail the manufacturer. That's when I realized you never protected me because you loved me. You did it because you needed someone under your control. Police officers enter the ballroom, real ones this time. Dad sees them and shoves me aside, making a break for the exit. He doesn't make it 3 steps before Michael, my unexpected ally, trips him. Dad sprawls across the marble floor as handcuffs click into place. Mark Miller. The detective reads his rights while Mom screams and fights her own arrest. You're charged with conspiracy to commit murder, fraud. The list continues, but I'm not listening. I'm watching my parents' perfect world crumble, their masks finally shattered beyond repair. Elena touches my arm. You okay? No. I watch Mom being led away, still shrieking about ungrateful children. But I will be. Clara! Dad calls out as they reach the door. You'll regret this. Everything we built was built on lies. I meet his eyes one last time. Goodbye, Father. Later, as reporters swarm and police gather evidence, Elena and I sit in the empty ballroom. What happens now? She asks. Mark comes home. The clinic gets new management. Our parents face justice. I study my sister's profile, seeing both the girl she was and the woman she's becoming. And we learn who we are without their shadows over us. Together. Together. But first, I say, I need to go home to my daughter. We walk out of the clinic for the last time, leaving behind the wreckage of our parents' empire. Their perfect family fantasy lies in ruins, but something real and honest might grow from the ashes. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying everything. Sometimes it's about clearing the ground so truth can finally take root. The courtroom empties slowly after the verdict. 25 years for Dad, 18 for Mom, justice served in cold, precise numbers. I remain seated, watching them being led away, neither looking back at the daughters they destroyed and rebuilt. Elena touches my shoulder. Ready? Almost. I gather my things, fingers brushing the locket Mom always wore, now evidence of her crimes, the hidden compartment containing proof of bribes and threats. Outside, reporters wait with hungry cameras. Mark shields Sophie from their questions while Michael handles the press statement. My daughter's small hand finds mine, anchoring me to what matters most. Aunt Elena says we're moving to the clinic house, Sophie says as we walk to the car, the big one with the garden. Yes. I exchange glances with my sister. The irony doesn't escape us. The family estate, purchased with tainted money, now transformed into a recovery center for victims of medical malpractice. But first, I say, there's somewhere we need to go. We drive to Mrs. Davis's grave, where fresh flowers already rest against the headstone. A note from her daughter reads, "Justice for Mom." I keep thinking, Elena says quietly, about all the moments we could have chosen differently, all the times we could have helped each other instead of becoming their weapons. I finish her sentence. Instead of becoming them? She nods. Sophie places her own flower, a dandelion picked from a crack in the sidewalk. Simple. Pure. Everything our childhood wasn't. Back home, I find Mark in our study, reviewing patient files from the clinic. The board approved the restructuring, he says. We can start accepting new cases next month. And the trust fund, set up for the victims' families. He pulls me close. You did it, Clara. You broke the cycle. But victory tastes different than I imagined. In my desk drawer, unopened, sits a letter from Mom, delivered by her lawyer after sentencing. Beside it, Dad's signet ring, returned by the evidence clerk. What troubles you? Mark asks, noticing my hesitation. I thought revenge would feel like winning. I sink into a chair. Instead, it feels like carrying their ghosts. A noise from the hallway draws our attention. Elena stands there, Michael behind her, both looking uncertain. The contractor found something in Dad's office wall, Michael says. Hidden compartment, you should see this. The manila envelope he hands me contains photographs. Dozens of them, me and Elena as children, caught in rare moments of sisterly affection, playing in the garden, sharing secrets, laughing. He kept them, Elena whispers. All this time, he kept proof that we were once real. I finish her sentence again. Before they made us into their perfect lies. The last photo shows us at my 10th birthday, before everything changed. Before competition and manipulation poisoned our bond. Two sisters, arms linked, facing the world together. Clara! Sophie calls from downstairs. Aunt Elena! The ice cream's melting. We share a look, my sister and I. understanding passing between us without words. We can't reclaim those innocent girls in the photographs, but maybe we can honor them by protecting the next generation from similar scars. "Coming, sweetheart," I call back, tucking the photos away, not hidden this time, but preserved. A reminder of what was lost and what might still be saved. In the kitchen, Sophie orchestrates an elaborate ice cream sundae assembly line, directing Michael with the serious authority of a 6-year-old dessert expert. Mark documents the chaos on his phone, while Elena accidentally on purpose gets chocolate sauce on her designer blouse. This is my victory, I realize. Not the courtroom triumph or the public vindication, but this. A family built on choice rather than obligation, love freely given instead of weaponized. Mom's unopened letter can wait. Dad's ring will gather dust. Their power over us died not with exposure or imprisonment, but in this moment, watching my daughter teach my sister how to make the perfect sundae, everyone laughing as whipped cream goes everywhere. "Mom!" Sophie waves me over. "You're missing everything!" I join them, accepting the sticky spoon my daughter offers. The past will always echo, but its power fades with each genuine smile, each chosen connection, each moment we decide to be more than our scars. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living well, surrounded by the love our parents never understood how to give. Story 2. The home was filled with the soothing fragrance of pancakes on a crisp spring morning. A warm golden glow filled the room as sunlight streamed in through the kitchen windows. Lily, 6, was sitting cross-legged on the floor of the living room. She was carrying her beloved stuffed rabbit. Her father, a gentle and jovial man, was standing at the stove, frying pancakes with skill. These pancakes weren't your typical kind. They were his well-known Sunday shows. Each was fashioned into a humorous expression that made Lily giggle every time. "Princess Lily, come assist your elderly guy with wonderful works of art." Using the spatula like a wand, he called. The place was filled with excitement as his voice was full of love and vitality. With her bunny left on the carpet, Lily sprung to her feet and ran to the kitchen. Like a bell, her laughter rang forth. Her mother, who was always well-prepared and kind, was preparing the table with care while humming a gentle melody that complemented the serene ambiance. It seemed as though this moment would continue forever, since everything was so wonderful. However, things may change drastically in life. Lily had just arrived to the kitchen. Her father's fingers dropped the spatula, and it fell to the ground with a clatter. He grasped his chest and stumbled backward, his once happy face turning to one of misery. As Lily's huge eyes met his, terror and bewilderment filling her little face, time seemed to stop. Her mother hurried forward, fear taking the place of her normal composure. "Lily, call for assistance." Her mother's voice broke urgently now. Everything that followed, including the ambulance's loud siren, the paramedics' rushed shouts, and the sight of her mother's tears as they hurried to the hospital, were engraved into Lily's mind as her small hand fumbled for the phone. Hours went by in a clean, frigid hospital hallway. The once bright morning grew dimmer as the shadow of fear grew. The doctor's solemn face conveyed everything Lily's heart wasn't prepared to hear when he finally showed up. The absence of her father left a void too profound for her impressionable mind to comprehend. Lily's idyllic youth came to an end that spring morning, and a life tainted by loss and unsolved questions began. Following the unexpected death of her father, Lily's once happy home became uncomfortably silent. Months passed in a haze of quiet dinners and school days until her mother, in need of solace, joined a widowed parent support group. Richard and she met there. He was gentle, kind, and exuded a quiet strength that made Lily think a little bit of her father. He became a well-known figure over time. A new kind of warmth slowly permeates the house as a result of his visits. Richard and Lily's mother were married within a year. He brought a steady patience and a sincere attempt to get to know Lily with him when he moved into their house. He would offer to read her bedtime stories, sit with her while she worked on her homework, and even attempt to make her father's renowned pancakes. Despite his best efforts, Lily couldn't get rid of the sensation that Richard was entering someone else's territory. No amount of Richard's kindness could make up for how much she missed her father. During a family dinner one evening, Lily's mother made a momentous announcement. She clutched her hands together, her face glowing with joy. "You're going to be an older sister, Lily, my dear," she cried out. Lily's fork froze in midair as the words lingered. She struggled to comprehend the news as she gazed at her mother. Lily could only feel a hollow pit in her chest, but her mother's beaming face made it obvious that this was supposed to be a happy moment. She wasn't ready to share her mother, not after her father died. After several months, baby Tommy was born. The dynamics of the household changed drastically as soon as he arrived. Lily watched as her mother poured every ounce of her energy into Tommy's care. "These formative years are very important," her mother would say, dismissing Lily's need for attention. But Richard, the mediator, saw the gap widening and made an effort to close it. But the bond they were slowly building began to fray under the weight of Tommy's demands. Lily often found herself in the background, her mother too busy or too tired to notice her anymore. The warm, peaceful home she once knew now revolved entirely around her baby brother. For Lily, it felt like she was disappearing, her place in the family shrinking with each passing day. As Tommy grew, so did their mother's obsession with him. It was as if her entire world revolved around her youngest child. Every moment of her day was spent catering to his needs, fussing over his meals, and documenting his every milestone. "Tommy needs me," she'd often say, brushing off Lily's requests for attention. At first, Lily tried to understand Tommy was still a baby after all. But as the years passed, the imbalance became glaringly obvious. Lily's lunches were forgotten, her school events overlooked, and her small victories went unnoticed. If she dared to speak up, her mother's response was always the same. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Tommy had a doctor's appointment, or Tommy needed help with his art project." The excuses piled up, and with each one, Lily felt herself retreating further into the shadows. Richard saw it all. He'd catch Lily sitting alone at the dinner table, or quietly playing in her room while her mother hovered over Tommy. Concern etched deeper lines into his face as he watched his wife pour all her energy into one child, leaving the other to fend for herself. Richard tried to make up for it in his own way. He attended Lily's karate classes, cheered loudly when she earned her belts, and even helped her with her math homework. After long days at work, his efforts didn't go unnoticed by Lily, who began to see him as an ally in a house where she often felt invisible. But the growing favoritism didn't sit well with Richard. Tension simmered between him and Lily's mother, and their disagreements became more frequent. "Sarah, you've got 2 kids, not just one," he'd say gently but firmly during their late-night discussions. "Lily needs you too. She's fine," her mother would reply dismissively. "She's independent, like her father. Tommy, on the other hand, needs more attention. He's sensitive." The breaking point came one evening when Richard suggested signing Tommy up for Little League. "He needs to interact with other kids," Richard argued at the dinner table. "It'll help him gain confidence." "Absolutely not." Sarah slammed her fork clattering into her dish. "Do you know how hazardous baseball can be? He may be harmed." "Sarah, you can't shield him from everything," Richard answered, his frustration clear. "He has to develop resilience." "What's next?" Wrapping him in bubble wrap, the dispute intensified. Their voices grew louder as Lily quietly slid her food about her plate. She wished she could disappear. Finally, Sarah banged her hands on the table. "I won't endanger my son's safety, Richard, if you don't comprehend that. Maybe you don't understand me at all." Richard groaned, running a hand over his hair. "It's not just about Tommy. It's also about Lily. She is worthy of your love and time. She doesn't understand." However, Sarah's expression tightened. She concluded the conversation by saying, "Tommy needs me more." Lily was lying in bed that night when she heard sounds coming through the walls, muted. Her mute sentiments were echoed by her parents' quarrel. Tommy was the priority in this household, and she was only a silent afterthought. Lily started to establish her own life as she approached adolescence. She dedicated herself to her schoolwork, took part in extracurricular activities, and practiced karate for hours on end, earning several new belts. She took comfort in her developing independence and her relationship with Richard, even while her family life remained chaotic. He was her constant, attending all of her events, giving her the biggest applause at her performances, and providing silent support when she and Richard were having a difficult time. While her mother's focus remained solidly on Tommy, Lily felt appreciated and noticed. Tommy, meanwhile, was acting strangely. His toys and clothing were all over the house, and the once adorable youngster had turned dirty and entitled. Their mother never chastised him, even though his room looked like a catastrophe area. Instead, with a frustrated sigh, she turned to Lily and said, "Be a dear and clean up your brother's room." You are aware of his sensitivity. Richard refused to keep quiet about Lily's hostility, which was simmering just under the surface. When he entered the living room one evening, Lily was having trouble folding Tommy's clothing. Sarah Richards firmly stated, "She's not his maid." His voice pierced the strained atmosphere. "Richard, he's still young." Her mother waved her hand dismissively in response. "I have to assist him." "Lily doesn't either," Richard retorted, raising his voice. "You can't continue to pamper him. If you continually cleaning up his mess, he will never learn responsibility, both literally and metaphorically." Years of bottled-up annoyance erupted into a heated quarrel. With her eyes flaming, Sarah said, "You don't understand him. He is unique. Lily never needed me as much as he does." "What about Lily?" Richard shot back, his tone calm but passionate. "Since she was 6 years old, she has been on her own." "Sarah, you've neglected her long enough." Sarah's face contorted in rage, and then, seemingly at the same moment, she started crying. Richard's shoulders sagged as she said, "You love her more than your own son." He was losing the struggle. Quietly, he stated, "This isn't about favorites. You're oblivious to the fact that it's about justice." That was the pivotal moment. Although he remained in the house, Richard emotionally separated from Sarah after that day. Their mutual fondness waned. He focused his energies on Lily, helping her get through her adolescence. He assisted her in applying for scholarships, took her to college visits, and proudly applauded each of her accomplishments. However, the widening gap between Richard and Sarah loomed like a threatening cloud over the home. It was both a boon and a bane for Lily. She thrived because of Richard's continuous support, but she felt like she was walking a tightrope because of the tension at home. Every day exposed fresh fissures in their family's foundation, and Lily knew in her heart that it would all fall apart eventually. For Lily, graduating from high school was a bittersweet day. Standing in her gown and hat, she looked around at the parents and classmates who were applauding. Her gaze fell on Richard, who was clapping loudly next to him and was grinning with delight. Her mother sat rigidly, staring at her phone. Knowing exactly who she was emailing Tommy's babysitter, Lily let out a sigh. The emotional gap that had developed over the years between her and her mother was reflected in the moment's hollowness. With a voice full of enthusiasm, Richard drew Lily aside later that night. He handed her a folder of college brochures and added, "I've been saving up for this. Lily, you are free to travel wherever you like. There are no limits." Lily's mother barged into the room before she could react. She had a frown on her face. "Richard, you can't be serious." She lost her temper. "Tommy should put that money aside for his future. He will require it more." Richard's visage stiffened, indicating that the talk was ended. It was an unusual but familiar sight. "Sarah, this cannot be negotiated. With Richard's continuous backing, I've made my decision." Marshall University in West Virginia was Lily's choice. It was close enough for the odd visit, yet remote enough to allow her a new beginning. Richard assisted her in loading boxes into the car on the day of the move. His enthusiasm is infectious, but her mother stayed at home, saying Tommy was too nervous about her leaving to go. The collegiate experience fulfilled all of Lily's expectations. She thrived after being released from the confining environment of her childhood home. She found a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in years, gained friends, and did exceptionally well in her studies, for the first time. She was no longer bound by the weight of being the forgotten child and felt genuinely free. At the same time, Tommy's life changed course. He grew more reclusive, spending his days playing video games or socializing with pals who supported his unhealthy behaviors. When Lily came home, which was not often, the sharp difference between their lives caught her attention. Tommy hardly gave her a look. The light from his computer screen revealed his pallid face. Her mother kept defending him with justifications. She would dismiss any worries, saying that he's going through a difficult time. Richard confided in Lily over dinner on one visit. He spoke in a tired voice. "I've tried everything, Lily." Tommy declines to accept accountability. "Additionally, your mother won't allow me step in. It is like to striking a brick wall." With a heavy heart for Richard, Lily nodded. She was aware of the toll it was having on him, but she also understood that she couldn't make things right at home. With every year that went by, the distance between her and her family grew, and a bitter realization followed. If it meant abandoning them, she had to make her own way. Even yet, she was occasionally reminded of the life she had left behind. They also strengthened her resolve to create a better life for herself, one free from the specters of partiality and neglect that had previously characterized her surroundings. Late one night, Lily received a call that upset the delicate equilibrium in her life. Like her father, Richard had passed out at work after suffering yet another severe heart attack. It was already too late when Lily arrived at the hospital. The man who had supported her the most when no one else had was no longer there. Although not for the reasons Lily had anticipated, the funeral was a solemn event. Her mother put on a show, crying aloud and holding her chest as she described Richard as a beautiful spouse. Silently, Lily stared, her stomach churning. She was aware of the reality. Her mother's grief had less to do with the death of a spouse, and more to do with her anxiety about losing her financial stability. Tommy arrived wearing a polo shirt and rumpled khakis, riveted to his phone throughout the whole of the service. He is mourning in his own manner. As usual, their mother made excuses. Lily's bitterness was almost unbearable. This was not what Richard had earned. It was hard to overlook the financial gaps in their family after the burial. Without his reliable source of money, Richard had become the only provider. Their mother soon became overburdened. The previously immaculate house started to exhibit symptoms of neglect as bills mounted. When Lily came home one evening for a visit, she saw her mother wringing her hands and pacing the living room. "Lily," she started, her voice faltering. "Our funds are getting low. My pension hardly covers the necessities, and Richard's funds are nearly depleted. I need your assistance." Lily fixed her gaze on her mom. The request was starting to weigh heavily. A part of her wanted to avoid bringing up the years of favoritism and mistreatment with her mother. She couldn't force herself to turn away entirely, though, as she gazed into her mother's weary, desperate eyes. "What is the amount that you require?" Despite the knot in her gut, she asked in a firm voice. $1,500 per month. Quietly, her mother said. The number was like a kick to Lily's stomach. She nodded despite the fact that it was a sizable amount of her pay. Every monthly transfer that Lily set up served as a reminder of the significant weight she had decided to carry. She told herself that was the proper thing to do, even though it wasn't easy. But there was still a glimmer of bitterness in the back. This was never intended to be the case. As Tommy's lifestyle continued to spin out of control, Lily's trips home got more and more difficult. He showed little interest in getting a job, and instead spent his days drinking, gambling, and relaxing on the sofa. On one occasion, he proudly presented Candy, his fiancée, who looked more like a reality TV star than a genuine person due to her long artificial nails and ostentatious attire. Within days, Candy had established herself at home, treating Lily's groceries as her own and leaving empty snack bags strewn all over the house. She seldom even looked up from her phone to greet Lily. Candy popped her gum and said, "You know this house belongs to Tommy now, right?" While Lily was unpacking groceries one day. Lily stopped. "What are you discussing?" Candy grinned. "Everything was signed over to him by your mother. The funds, the house, everything. A will is present, among other things." Mother was carefully organizing coupons in the kitchen when Lily barged in. "Is it accurate?" She made a demand. Her voice wavered. "Did you let Tommy handle everything?" Her mother straightened her shoulders after hesitating. "Yes," she responded coolly. The floor seemed to have fallen out from under Lily. "How were you able to? It's me who has been assisting you. Tommy hasn't done anything to fix my house, despite my monthly payments." Her mom's expression darkened. "You have no right to talk about your brother in that manner. He's always made you jealous. However, he is my son. He is deserving." Feeling envious. Disbelief broke Lily's voice. "All my life you have disregarded me. I never was I? Even though I tried to be enough for you." The next thing her mother said was like a sledgehammer. "You never needed me as much as Tommy does. In all honesty, I have never loved you as much as I adore him." Lily stood as the room whirled. All at once, the burden of years of partiality and neglect fell. She had been told she was never enough and had spent her entire life attempting to win her mother's affection. Lily reached for her handbag with trembling hands. Even though she was on the verge of tears, she added, "You made your choice. You can now accept it." When she got home, she stopped her mother's account from receiving automated payments. There's a sense of completion with every click on her banking app when her mother demanded an explanation over the phone. All Lily said was, "You got Tommy. Now let him look after you." Lily felt free for the first time in years. The financial strain had been lifted. The mental burden of attempting to win over someone who would never value her, however, was more significant. She had lost her anger. She was finished. She turned her gaze to the future. She was confident of one thing. She would never again allow the love, or lack thereof, of others to define who she was. Lily had a new and thrilling sense of independence from her family's expectations after severing financial links with them. She started giving her career her all attention, launching herself into new endeavors and advancing through the ranks of her consulting company. Her dreams seemed to become closer with every payment. A home of her own was something she had always desired, so she established a savings account and began saving money for it. It went beyond simply having a place to call home. It represented freedom from the burdens of her past and a new beginning. In the meantime, without Lily's monthly payments, things started to fall apart at home. Tommy and her mother found it difficult to pay the bills. Tension between them increased as the previously immaculate house continued to deteriorate. Tommy spent his nights partying with friends and his days gaming because he was still unable to obtain a permanent job. Candy, his fiancée, ultimately lost tolerance with the situation and fled, taking with her any hope their mother still had. Lily learned tidbits about their demise from friends and family, but she had no desire to get in touch. She felt free of guilt and the desire to win her mother's favor for the first time in her life. Rather, she concentrated on her personal development and pleasure. She started going for walks in the evenings, resuming her old interests, and even organizing get-togethers with friends. Experiences that she had never previously permitted herself. Lily thought about how far she had come one evening, while sitting on her balcony with a view of the city skyline. Richard was on her mind. I was overcome with appreciation for his constant support and kind words of encouragement. His recollection served as a reminder of her value and courage. She imagined his delighted face and said to herself, "You've got this, Lily." At last, the poisonous connections that had before characterized her life were broken, creating room for tranquility and understanding. After years of looking for her mother's approval and affection, Lily finally realized she didn't need it. She had created a life for herself, one that was full of independence, purpose, and the quiet confidence that she was sufficient. She looked up at the stars. For the first time, Lily had a profound sensation of calm. She was just gazing ahead, not behind. She was prepared to completely accept the fact that her future belonged to her.